I don't know. I was very much in this guy's corner. I defended that shade of gray when he leaked because I was sure he'd look better in hand. I mean, look at Vector Prime. Renders never do a figure justice. But then I got him and... ugh. Something smells here, and it isn't me this time, I promise. It's definitely the plastic. It sure looks like it smells. I cannot express enough to you how ugly it is, in my opinion. And it is just my opinion. If you disagree, first of all, good for you. Genuinely happy that this figure's not a disappointment for everyone. Different chokes for different folks. Let me know in the comment section below, like and subscribe, hit the gritty. And second of all, I'm usually very forgiving of aesthetic shortcomings, but I legitimately cannot get over how unpleasant I find this shade of pearly brownish yellow. It honestly just looks gross. The parts that are painted are ever so slightly nicer, but only ever so slightly. And the fact that his face is a darker bluer gray just feels like pouring salt in the wound. If it was all that color, it would have been delicious. But then again, beauty is only skin deep, or so I'm told. If the figure's fun, then I can easily overlook any aesthetic disagreements I might have. Credit where credit is due, hand feel is pretty nice. He's a chunky deluxe and he fills out the price point if we're talking purely cost to weight ratio. You know, if you want to judge him like he's supermarket produce. If we can just get this thing out of the way, it sucks. You can attach it to the front in alt mode to make it look slightly worse. Yippee! Not to mention it's a real pain in the nards to get out. And in robot mode, you can get this, attach it to the back to make it look slightly worse too. But this time it barely stays on. So yeah, garbage accessory. Into the grass it goes. His other accessories are fine if a little underwhelming. His smokestacks can be dinky little guns. Flamethrowers, according to the trailer. They definitely look better on his shoulders than in his hands. There's a pretty blue Energon axe that has a pretty stubby peg. Not the most solid connection, but it's not going to drop off with a sneeze like Reactivate's gun. You could store it on the back, but I wouldn't. I tried it once and it did not feel good, and now there are little stress marks in the corners, so don't love that. And of course he has, as pretty much every Optimus seems to nowadays, the matrix of leadership, this time in extra tiny flavor. There are two inconspicuous little notches on his fists, and combined with the little blue tabs on either side of the matrix, he can do the pose, TM. It's a very cute way to make a Prime hold the matrix when his MSRP is less than a full meal at Five Guys, but I do kind of wish the matrix wasn't clear plastic. I don't know how many times he'll be able to do that pose before it leaves behind one of its tabs. He's a pretty poseable little fella too. His hot rod shoulders have the advantage of transformation joints, so they're not so limited. He's not missing any crucial points of articulation, so you can get him doing pretty much whatever you want. I've heard some people complain about where the neck joint is positioned, but I kind of like it. You can make him fly. The backpack will tilt out of the way of the waist swivel easy, so that's not a problem. But if we're talking about the waist swivel, we can talk about something that is. Here I will repeat to you the question I asked, which lost me my brief internship at the doctor's office. What is wrong with his crotch? Why did they design it this way? If you want to move his leg forward, which I often do, then it looks like he's wearing a skirt that doesn't fit right. Not to mention it barely stays on. Sounds like all my favorite skirts, if you know what I'm saying. And what's more, he looks just fine without it, and he's more poseable, and transformation is effectively unchanged, so like, what's the point? Into the grass with the other garbage? So yeah, the robot mode is super dynamic, very poseable, and very solid feeling, but it is dragged down by some middling accessories and the ugliest paint shade I have ever seen on a toy. Unfortunately, the negatives continue as we get into transformation. It's just not that fun, honestly. It feels clunky and sort of undercooked. The arms peg onto the legs while holding onto a different part of the legs, and at the same time, the shoulders are trying to slip onto these little tabs on the front, but you're fighting with the arm tabs and the handholds, and even if you get all that sorted, the legs kind of just sit there. You're putting a lot of trust in the longevity of these knee joints to keep the thing together and upright. They should have done less locking in the arms and more locking in the legs. It takes some practice, but once you get order of operations down, it's simple enough. Still not really fun though. Some recommendations. From robot to vehicle, plug the shoulders in last so you're not fighting them to get the arms pegged into the thighs and potentially stressing the ports here. Vice versa for vehicle to robot, shoulders come out first. Also, don't plug the hands all the way into the little handlebars. The figure is solid enough without that, and they are surprisingly snug and therefore pretty annoying to get back out going to robot. And if you decide to put the garbage on the front, the best way to get it out is to push on the tabs from the other side. Still not fun, but it feels less like it's gonna break. And the end result is fine. I like this design a lot. I always love a chunky little space truck. The arms are a little obvious, but it doesn't bother me that much. He rolls nicely and looks like Optimus, so you know, job well done, I guess. This has been a weird review to write because right out of the box, I immediately disliked this thing. Can Transformers give you the ick? Kind of how I felt. Icked out. out, but as I've messed with him more, I've definitely softened and warmed up to him like I was a delicious microwave ramen. I stand by my critiques. That color is awful, the accessories are kind of cringe, and the transformation is annoying. But he has somehow worked his way out of my bad graces, the un-ickening, if you will, so color me conflicted. I don't hate him, I haven't had a bad time with him. The food was good and the talk was nice, but I don't know if he's the kind of guy I'd want to meet my parents. The robot mode really shines. If you're a posing girly, you're gonna have a good time. But if you're big into the actual act of transforming it like I am, then you might find him to be a bit of a limp showing. I'm cautiously optimistic for the rest of the Studio Series TF1 toys. The Megatron looks like a lot of fun, and I'm super excited to see a Voyager Sentinel next year. Honestly, I think making him a Voyager would have been a better move. More room to breathe engineering-wise, but then again, he's pretty solid for a deluxe, so I don't know. I'm very back and forth on him, as opposed to the Prime Changers, which have all been simple, fun bundles of absolute joy. Whatever, I can complain all I want, but I'm definitely gonna buy him again when he inevitably re-releases with less accessories and a different head as Orion Pax, because I'm a certified sucker.